Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Capturing Social Engagement Data with Marketo with Oktopost. My name is Laura, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get started, I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping items for today's event. Just want to let you know you'll receive the recording shortly after the session. And if you have questions anytime during the presentation, please use your questions control panel, and we will have time for Q&A after the presentation. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Andrew to begin. Andrew, take it away.
Thank you, Laura. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our webcast today. My name is Andrew Hall. I'm president and founder at Elixiter. We are a specialty Marketo consulting organization, and we focus on the best practice implementation, execution, and strategy around Marketo and everything that interacts the broader Marketo ecosystem. And prior to starting and running Elixiter, I was a director at Right Now Technologies, which was acquired by Oracle, overseeing everything from product messaging, web properties, the marketing automation processes there, but also events and marketing analytics. So all these topics are near and dear to my heart, and I'm really passionate about all these aspects that help us as marketers be better and be more effective with our job, which is why we have asked Daniel Kushner from Oktopost to join us and share some of his insights about what Oktopost can do for you within this context. He is currently the CEO and co-founder of Oktopost. He is a B2B marketing expert, lives and breathes this just like myself, and a social media enthusiast. As former VP of worldwide marketing at an innovative high-tech company called Nolio, Daniel grew their sales by double digits year over year, and Nolio was eventually acquired by Computer Associates. Daniel has been in the field for more than a decade and has successfully led the online marketing departments of several global organizations. And with that, Daniel, I want to thank you for joining us and presenting your thoughts today. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and I will drive the slides for you and just share what you have with our audience today.
That's great. Thank you very much, Andrew. It's a pleasure being here and sharing my passion as well about B2B marketing and about marketing technology. Because one thing that we said, Oktopost is in data we trust. So we really think it's about the data. So let's go to the first slide, and I'll discuss a little bit about Oktopost and what we do in the platform. And then the second part of the presentation will really drill down into specific Marketo elements and how we can utilize this very special social data within the Marketo platform. So Oktopost is a social media management and advocacy solution. We were designed from day one for B2B. So the question that's normally asked is, what is the difference between B2B and B2C social media management? So with our experience at previous companies, when we look at B2B, there is normally one main objective, or the main KPI every B2B marketer has, from the CMO and all the way down to the marketing managers. And this KPI is normally around leads. And when we drill down into the marketing activities and investments that we do as B2B marketers, it's normally quite easy to understand the ROI and understand how many leads we're generating or influencing from our activities. So if, for example, we're running a webinar like this, so we have the technology where all the names and the emails, they get pulled into Marketo, from there maybe synced to Salesforce. We can understand the campaign and the funnel, and from this webinar, how many qualified leads we're getting, how many opportunities, and at the end of the day, how much revenue we're generating. Even if we're doing trade shows, so we collect the business cards or we scan the tags, that data gets pushed into marketing automation, and again, we can follow that down the funnel and understand at the end of the day from our, let's say, $100,000 investment in the trade show booth, how many leads, qualified leads, and opportunities we're generating. even if we're doing paid ads, we have that technology in place to understand what's the cost per lead, cost per qualified lead, etc. But when it comes to social media, all of a sudden, the metrics are very different. We're seeing things like likes and shares and retweets and followers month over month, and how many comments I'm getting. From a B2B marketer's perspective, these numbers are nice, but it doesn't answer the real question: how does social really affect my business? Am I generating leads from social media? Which leads are coming from social media? How does social media help influence my existing opportunities? And all these questions we aim to answer using one Oktopost, and definitely using Oktopost in combination with a marketing automation platform like Marketo. So under the Oktopost umbrella, we have two main products, or two main modules that we call them. One is social media management, and the next is social employee advocacy. So moving on to the next slide, we can see a drill down into what we have under the social media management. So what's very unique about the Oktopost platform is that, like B2B marketers, everything is run under campaigns. In Salesforce, we have campaigns. In Dynamics, we have campaigns. In Marketo, we have campaigns and programs. And social media, the way that we think about social media from a B2B perspective, is pretty much the same. So a campaign can be social media content that's promoting this webinar. It could be, I have a new ebook and I create a social media campaign around that ebook. We're doing an event, just like we have a Marketo campaign that sends emails around the event. We're using Oktopost to have a social media campaign around that event as well. Very rarely in B2B, when we're doing social media, is there ad hoc content. We just want to send out a tweet or update our LinkedIn company page. So it's very much around that campaign structure, which has tags and components to it. And then drilling down other components within the social media management, we have things like streams for the listening, where we listen to keywords, our corporate keywords, our competitor keywords that we can have in there. Analytics go not only to the classic social media metrics, such as likes, tweets, and comments, etc., but we can also understand conversions that we're getting from social. So when somebody clicks on a tweet and they end up converting it into a lead, we can see that flow and that journey in the analytics as well. The calendar is very important to mention, because another main difference between B2B and B2C social media is that we tend to find, which is sometimes counterintuitive, a lot more content going out onto the B2B channels. So I normally like to use Nike as an example, as a classic B2C brand. And when we look at the Nike Twitter account, we'll see that they post maybe a tweet every other day. So they have 10, 20 tweets going out on a monthly basis. But each one of those tweets is shared to millions of their followers. It's retweeted tens of thousands of times. On B2B, we see the exact opposite. Because of the content that we're creating, webinars, white papers, case studies, ebooks, testimonials, etc., all this content needs to get distributed onto social media. If we look at the amount of social media, for each webinar, there are dozens of tweets. There are maybe a few Facebook updates, a few LinkedIn updates, and that's just for one webinar. So if we're a larger company with multiple products, maybe multiple geographical areas that have different languages as well, we tend to see B2B companies scheduling hundreds, if not thousands, of messages a month. So the calendar, having a robust calendar that can support that type of mass of social content is really important. And then of course the inbox, when somebody is mentioning our brand, we need to be able to capture that mention, to respond to that mention. It could be a support question, a sales question, and we need to route that to the correct person, and we support that as well. So that's on the social media management side. If we go to the next slide, I'll spend a few seconds on the advocacy, and we see advocacy really exploding, especially this year, when GDPR is coming up, and hopefully during the end we can relate that. Advocacy is a way for the corporate to share social media with the advocates of the company. These are normally the customer-facing employees, so people's in sales roles, marketing, customer success support, etc. And having these employees or these advocates share content on their personal Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn profiles. And this has two main benefits, as you can see here. One, we're amplifying the corporate reach, because again, as opposed to B2C, B2B, we normally have in the corporate side smaller social networks. So using these advocates, we can normally double, triple, and quadruple the reach that we get on social media. And it also positions these advocates as thought leaders, especially if I'm in a sales role and I'm constantly updating my LinkedIn with industry relevant content. So all my prospects and customers that are connected to me on LinkedIn, they'll consider me as a thought leader. So why is all this social media important when we're looking at the marketing stack and marketing automation specifically? We can see this on the next slide. This is actually a Marketo report that came out in 2017 called the State of Engagement. And what we can clearly see is that social media is third place when it comes to engagement. The website is there, the email is there, Marketo handles this really well, and what it's missing, and you'll see this in the next few slides, is the social media. So what we like to do at Oktopost is to see this 33% of social media engagement that's happening outside of our specific web domains. So when somebody is clicking on a Facebook page, that doesn't happen on our website. When they're liking a LinkedIn post, that doesn't happen on our website or doesn't happen on the email. And so we take that information and we push that into the Marketo platform, and we'll get into the depths when we discuss Marketo, what we can do with this specific information. And on the next slide, you can see this is the reason, this 33% of data that is missing into Marketo, is the reason why Marketo chose Oktopost to be a part of their Accelerate program. We actually recently won their Technology Partner of the Year, so we're really excited about that. And again, they see the value that when using Oktopost to manage the social media, when using Oktopost to manage your advocacy program, you're getting a benefit on the other side of the marketing stack inside Marketo. So it's very much compared to Salesforce. When the day-to-day users of Salesforce, so the sales reps, they're putting in the information, they're updating opportunities with the emails and with the calls and with the activity, and the benefit of the data is on the VP sales level, when they can look at the dashboards and the reports and the analytics, understand what's happening with the sales, they can forecast better, etc. And very much the same thing with Oktopost. We have the social media team using Oktopost on a daily basis, the advocates using the advocacy platform on a daily basis, and then the Marketo team, they're really benefiting from that data that we start to collect because of this usage. So what is this data that I'm talking about is on the next slide, where inside on social media, there are different types of engagement activities happening. So things like link clicks and shares and mentions and likes and comments. When using the combination of Marketo and Oktopost, all of that social engagement data is automatically populated inside the Marketo platform. And that's what really gives us the power to enable us to enhance what we're doing. So another way of looking at this, on the next slide, we drill down into the Marketo platform, and we observe three main capabilities that our customers are doing in Marketo and how they're doing it. So these three main capabilities are the lead nurturing programs, lead scoring programs, and lead attribution. And I think lead attribution is the golden question for marketers. When there's a big sell at the end of the day, I did the six-figure deal, we start to drill back, okay, where did this lead come from? Did it come from a marketing activity? Did it come from a trade show, a webinar? Did it come from social media? Because if we understand where the leads are coming from and how our marketing activities are influencing these opportunities, we can then go put more efforts and more resources into the areas of success. And the way that we're able to nurture and score and attribute within Marketo is based on the data. With no data, I can't do any of these activities. And the data is currently coming from emails, email clicks, email opens, web page visits, because we had the Marketo Munchkin tracking code on the websites, and any data that we synchronize from third party. But as you can see in this pie chart, something's missing. And on the next slide, we'll see exactly what's missing, and that, of course, is social media. All those social media clicks and likes and comments and mentions, as I said, it doesn't exist because Marketo isn't aware of that data. With Oktopost, we add that social data into the Marketo platform, and that essentially helps you to enhance the way you're nurturing, scoring, and attributing your leads. So to give a very drill down example, we'll go to the next slide, which shows a sample journey of what Marketo might see. So on day one, somebody's doing a Google search, and they get to the blog, and on the blog there's a banner or form that this lead fills out. This is a Marketo form, and then they become a lead in the system. So when we look from a Marketo perspective, we see a journey that took one day. We went from anonymous to known lead, and the SEO team, because this came from Google search, the SEO team get all the credit. They get the round of applause that they brought in this amazing new lead. When essentially the story might be a little bit different. And if we go to the next slide, we can actually see the real truth to this lead journey. So it didn't start on day one. It started 22 days ago when this lead clicked on a tweet. Maybe the tweet was done by one of the advocates. It wasn't even a corporate tweet. It was one of the advocacy shares. And that tweet went to Wall Street Journal. So it went to a third-party site. And that maybe the Wall Street Journal article was discussing my brand or my product or something to do with the industry. And then a week later, that same person, they liked a Facebook page. And a week after that, they clicked on one of the LinkedIn posts, maybe on my corporate LinkedIn page. And then only then, when my brand was in their mind, did they do the Google search. Because of that, they got to the blog, and then they filled out the form. So as you can see here, this is a completely different truth, what Marketo saw without Oktopost. And the good news is that once we're using Oktopost, Marketo will see this whole and complete journey. And look at all the differences that we have in the journey. One, we can give credit to the attribution to social media. Before that, the SEO team got the credit, and now the social media team is getting credit. So we know that social initiated this lead. We can even drill down because we have the data. Did this come from corporate social? Did it come from advocacy? Maybe a specific sales rep shared this tweet, and now we know exactly who shared the tweet or who from the social media team wrote that specific content that triggered the initial click. When they get to the website, if we're using the Marketo real-time personalization, so we have content, we can now show content based on the interest of that lead because all this data is inside Marketo. So if they clicked on that tweet that discussed, let me throw out something out here, global warming. So when they get to the website, we might want to show them content around global warming because we understand this is the interest of that lead even before they came known. So everything that we're doing can be improved within Marketo. Let's say they filled out a form in Marketo, which is a generic contact form. So they didn't register to a specific webinar or they didn't download a specific white paper, but they filled out a contact form. So if that lead is going into a nurturing program, what are we going to nurture them with? Some generic email because we don't know what they're interested in. But if we have all this social data that is pushed into the Marketo platform, we can then nurture them with more relevant emails and making the nurturing programs much more effective. So this is what Oktopost brings to the table when it comes to Marketo, and I'd like to drill down and get really technical into the Marketo platform, how this can actually be used. So let's go to look at some use cases. We'll go to the next slide. And the way that we see this inside Marketo, you can see what's highlighted in orange. We see a new type of activity inside the Marketo platform, and it's called clicked on social link. Of course, we have the other activities, which is shared, commented, etc. But when we drill down onto that click in social link, we have all the metadata around a specific click. Which Oktopost campaign it came from, which LinkedIn, which social network it came from, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, Facebook, etc. You can see here campaign tags. So within Oktopost, every campaign has its specific tags that are fully customizable by the business, and those are all flowed into the Marketo platform under this social activity. So if you remember the pie chart where we had email and web, we're now adding the social component. So just as you have built into Marketo, visit web page and clicked on email and opened the email, now you have all this social activity. And based on that social activity, we can start to enhance the way we're nurturing scoring, and I'll go through a few examples. So let's go to the next slide, and we'll see here, this is a very simple use case on scoring. So we know that we score when somebody gets to the web page. We might give them a point when they visit a web page, 2 points when they open an email, 10 points when they click on an email, and 50 points when they register to a webinar. But I might be getting leads that they get to my website, but once they have that information, once they downloaded that white paper, they don't really come to the site anymore because they got the information they needed. But hopefully during the cycle that we're working with this lead, that we're engaging them on the sales cycle, they're starting to connect to us on social media. So they connect to the sales rep on LinkedIn, and they follow us on Twitter, and they might like our Facebook page. And then we can start capturing their social activity. So when they click on one of the LinkedIn posts that we do, we can then capture that natively within the Marketo platform, even if that link went to a third-party website. So if we looked at the example from before, that we're sending traffic from social to Wall Street Journal, we can still capture those social clicks, although they never get to our web page, and increase by 5 points. So that's a very simple way that we can increase the score. And if we're marking MQLs or SQLs based on specific score threshold, this can help us capture that additional engagement and get to that threshold much faster based on the social activity. The next slide shows something a little bit more advanced than just clicking on something social, but we're looking at specific topics. So one of the examples in scoring, when we're looking at the website, is we say if somebody looks at the pricing page, don't give them 1 point, but give them 10 points, because that shows extra initiative, extra interest. They want to understand how much our product or service costs. So we can take that same kind of concept and move that to social media. So we might have content which is aimed, the purpose of this content is aimed at high level. So for example, if we GDPR is a big topic now, we're talking about GDPR, maybe that's CEOs are interested in, and the legal counsel is interested in that, and CMOs definitely interested in GDPR. It might not be interesting for managers or juniors or interns. So within Oktopost, when we're creating our social media editorial calendar, we can tag the campaigns with certain topics. In our case, when we discuss ROI, we know this is normally high level. People are interested in ROI. And in this program, we can add additional score when somebody is clicking on very relevant high-level content. So in this case, we don't care if this is a click on a tweet, LinkedIn or Facebook, but if the topic is around ROI, they clicked on a tweet or LinkedIn that was around ROI, we're going to increase an additional 5 points. So that's another example. Let's move on to the next use case, which I think is really interesting, and it's around segmentation. So as you're aware, Marketo has built-in segmentation, so that helps you send the relevant emails to the relevant people at the right time. Now, normally the segmentation is around very static data. I have segmentation on regions. So am I from North America, from Europe, from APAC, etc. What we can do now is segment based on interest, which is coming from social media. So again, I'm using those campaign tags, and I can, when we do our social media publishing, we make sure to have a tag which is around the topic, and all of our content is around 5 or 6 different topics: advocacy, ROI, marketing automation, content marketing, and social media management. And when people are clicking on that social content, if they're known inside Marketo, we'll update a specific field called social interest. And this is a custom field that we put onto the Marketo contact, and that will constantly get updated based on their last social interaction. So if I clicked on a social post that was around advocacy, I'll have advocacy in my social interest. If I click on a post that's around global warming, I have global warming in my interest. So it's not something that's static. It's constantly updating, because maybe today I'm interested in topic A, and tomorrow I'm interested in topic B. So this way we have a program that's constantly updating this very special field on the contact with the latest social activity, with the latest social interest. And on the next slide, we can see how this is used. So using that built-in Marketo segmentation, we can use the next part of Marketo, which is the dynamic content. So this example is showing how we can use dynamic content within an email based on that segmentation. So if I'm sending a newsletter to 20,000, 30,000 contacts that I have in my database, why should I send the same newsletter to all the contacts? It doesn't make sense, right? I have different contacts that are interested in different things, especially if I'm a company with multiple product lines. So this way, we can customize those emails using the Marketo dynamic content based on that social interest. So that somebody was clicking on, in this case, marketing automation related content, their newsletter is going to be slightly leaning towards that specific content. So what we find is that by taking these normally, or what would be generic emails, and customizing it based on their interest, gets a much higher engagement rate on the emails themselves. So again, another example of using this social engagement data to enhance the way we're sending out these emails. Let's go on to the next use case, which is around nurturing. So nurturing is normally a touchy topic with content marketers, because unfortunately we see more than we see quite often these nurturing campaigns being set up once and kind of forgetting about them. So we invest a lot of time in the streams and the emails and the content, and they're set up, and we put a lot of effort into this, and then we kind of go on to our day-to-day marketing jobs and creating the webinars and the case studies and the content, and we're doing the social media programs and the emails for specific webinars. But these nurturing campaigns kind of get left in the dust, and they become outdated very quickly. And what we find is that if we can constantly make sure that we have different tracks in our nurturing streams and different tracks in the campaigns, and we're moving our contacts in the Marketo database from one track to another track based on their current social interest, that we're getting a much higher conversion rate. Because the purpose of these tracks is to move them down the funnel, to get them interested, to increase the score, and to eventually pass that qualified lead off to our sales. And if we make sure that we're sending them something which is more relevant to them by understanding what they're currently doing in social media, we're getting a much higher conversion rate on those. So that's, I think, a great example. Let's move on to the next one. And I think this is interesting because of two reasons. One, it uses the interesting moments in Marketo, and two, this actual use case came from Marketo themselves. So before looking into this use case, it relates to something that's normally done or normally shown during the Marketo implementation phase, is when you'll say, okay, I have an active prospect and they're visiting my website more frequently. So let's take that fact that they're visiting my website more frequently to send an alert to the sales rep that's in charge of this specific prospect. So that's great in theory, but what we see more than often in practice is that once a prospect is engaged with a salesperson, they visit the website less and less often, because they're getting their information from different sources. The different sources are from email and from social media. So let's see what we can do in social media. We can set up a program like this that will look for these prospects with active open opportunities, and if they have at least 3 social clicks or 3 social engagements in the past 7 days, for example, let's create an interesting moment called socially active. So now Marketo has this brand new flag called socially active, which is triggered when an active prospect, an active opportunity has engaged in my social content. Now, the next natural stage or the next natural step when we get this new interesting moment is to send an alert to the sales rep saying, hey, sales rep, your prospect has been engaging inside our social media content. This could be corporate social media, this could be advocacy social media, and what we're going to do on the sales side is send within that sales rep alert is have a link to their CRM. So let's say Salesforce, and we'll continue to the next slide, where the salesperson, they don't use Marketo, they use CRM. So when they log into their Salesforce in this example, they'll, just like we have the Marketo insights, there's a social insights where the salesperson can see a detailed journey of that specific prospect and what they clicked on inside social media. So we can see what profile they were using. So did it come from an advocacy click or a corporate click, and the exact message. And if they click on the message, they'll get to Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and they can see the exact content that their prospect is engaging on. And the great thing about this information is that we can then fully prepare for the next email or the next phone conversation that's going to be in the right context of what this prospect is interested on. And one, we can see it on the lead level, on the contact level, or if we're doing ABM, we also aggregate this data on the account level. So when I'm looking at the account inside Salesforce, we can see all the social clicks that all the contacts for that account have been doing, so we can understand where there is interest on the account. So I think that's very interesting, closing the loop between social, marketing automation, so the marketing side, and then going down to the sales side. So let's go over to the last example, which is basically influence. So as you're all aware, there's an opportunity analyzer in Marketo, and based, again, creating those interesting moments. So when somebody, in this example, we're saying, whenever there's a social click that came from the advocacy board, so one of my advocates shared a post, somebody clicked on that post, it's going to raise that interesting moment inside Marketo called click on the advocacy social. And when we're looking at our opportunity influence analyzer within Marketo, because there's an interesting moment, those social points will come up as well automatically. So it's not only looking at the web page visits and register a webinar and then downloaded a white paper, we can also start to give credit where credit due with social media as well. So that summarizes. We went over a lot of case studies. As Andrew said, this is going to be recorded, so you have that there. But I think we're ready, Andrew, for the Q&A.
Daniel, thank you so much, and thank you for setting the context for where Oktopost fits into the Marketo ecosystem, and then driving it down into those really concrete examples, because I know from previous webinars that we've hosted, not only for our clients, but other practitioners in the Marketo sphere, they like to see how it actually, hits on the ground within the system and how it's tracked. And also, thank you for closing it out with that example around the opportunity analyzer, because I know one of our primary goals at Elixiter is driving our clients up that Marketo maturity curve and the ultimate nirvana. And one of the reasons we see almost every client of ours, the reason they've invested the time and effort and energy into Marketo is to be able to prove marketing ROI at the end of the day. And your solution is part of helping all of us prove marketing ROI. So thank you for doing that. One of the questions, Daniel, that came in, and I think it probably when you mentioned GDPR right at the beginning, one of our attendees asked, do the new GDPR regulations have any effect on using social data to segment audiences?
Well, I think that's, GDPR is definitely very interesting. We'll put a disclaimer here that I'm not giving any legal advice. So check with your counsel on whatever I say. Take it with a grain of salt. But I think the interesting things about GDPR when it comes to social is that everybody, or many, claim that it's going to be affecting the large companies of Facebook and LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, Amazon, Apple, etc. But when we drill down, GDPR is very much about data security and getting consent to use personal information or personal data. And when we look at the social networks, they're pretty much protected. And the reason is because we use their services as a user. We log in to their service, and by logging in, we have a contract with that specific network as a user. So when, as a marketer, I might not be able, coming, was it May 2025, 25th, I might not be able to send them an email because I don't have the consent, but I can definitely target them on social media because the big players, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, they're taking care of that within the contract they have between the end user and their network. I can then target them on social media. So if my advocate shares on Facebook or shares on LinkedIn and the prospect sees that message on LinkedIn, we don't need any consent there, right? That's the fact they're using LinkedIn or Facebook, they're prepared to get that information. If the Facebook, and they're going to take care of the tracking pixel. So if somebody clicks on a social post, and just by the fact clicking on a social post, we can then retarget them on these social networks. Again, it's being taken care of by the social networks themselves. So I actually think GDPR on social is going to be something positive, because we're going to be losing a lot of the emails that we can do on the email marketing side, but that increases the usage of social, and we're going to be able to reach the audiences on the social side.
Great. Well, thanks for answering that question. And I know we're fielding a lot around GDPR, and also actively engaged with all of our clients to help them make sure that they're on the compliance path before that May date. So it is going to come up quickly for all of us. Next question that came in, how do you build custom audiences in Marketo, and how difficult is it to set these up? And I'll let you answer this question. It's probably not so much Oktopost functionality, but Marketo, but I know you know Marketo really well. So again, the question is, how do you build custom audiences in Marketo, and how difficult is it to set these up?
Yeah, so I think there are various ways, and Marketo is a very open platform. So I think from your experience as well, Andrew, there's no two instances that look alike. I think there are two ways that I would go about it. One is what I showed in one of the use cases is by using these segments. So we're segmenting the database based on specific data that we have on the leads. And when it comes to social, to recap on the use case, we can understand what people are clicking on based on the tag. So it's very important to understand that when we're doing our social, it's about the social. When we're building the social media campaigns, it's not just a part of the social organization or the social media team that needs to be aware of those campaigns. It's something which is much broader on the marketing side. So because social media campaigns can affect what is happening in Marketo, we need to start having collaboration within the marketing team. So once we set up the campaigns with the correct tags, those tags will be available in Marketo, and you can use those tags to start segmenting your database. That's one. And second, because we can capture that information and push it into customized fields on the contacts, we can then use those customized fields in smart lists. So I can have a smart list, whoever clicked on a social post to do this specific topic, or give me all my customers that are engaging in LinkedIn. And then maybe we can do something on LinkedIn, or push them even into a LinkedIn list, or into a Facebook custom audience, and start retargeting them there. So there are various ways using this customized data.
Great. Well, we're coming right up on 40 minutes, and we just want to be on time with our audience. We want to thank you, Daniel, for spending your hour with us, sharing some of your insights with how well Oktopost really seamlessly integrates into Marketo. And I hope everybody that has joined us today can see through the examples that Daniel showed that it really is seamlessly integrated all the way down to that smart list action area, to the segmentation, to the reporting, and that it really can be one with Marketo and ultimately flowing through to Salesforce or Dynamics on the CRM side. So Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to wrap up the webinar today. We do have a recording of it. We will send it out to everybody so you can pass it along to your friends and colleagues. And again, we just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you.
Great, thanks.